Today, we need to talk about Jung Kook addressing Jin during his recent live stream and this getting fans emotional. We also have people concerned after a picture of Jin's head from the military had gone viral. And then Jin talked about how he was not okay. So hey dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Grab your dumpling, taste filling mug merch, and let's go. BTS has really paved the way in Korea at the start of their career with their conversations around mental health. The beginning albums they made at the time, and even now, are still the only extremely big albums that have existed in Korea around mental health. There's albums here and there from other artists, but BTS did their album at a time where it was definitely more considered brave to do it, since BTS's music ended up being banned by TV networks and shows because of this. And I think a lot of that was the reason BTS ultimately did not get to go on variety shows often, or was disrespected on variety shows, as most hosts probably just considered BTS as a niche artist that will never receive mainstream attention. By the way, if you are interested in checking out the BTS appearances on both American variety shows and Korean shows, and their own shows like Run BTS or Bon Voyage, we do react to them on Patreon, and we always have a great time there. There is a limited $1 tier that has a couple spots left. If you're interested, I hope to see you there. I will link that in the description. But anywho, Jin recently got named one of the biggest Asian artists to help destigmatize mental health. Obviously, since topics of mental health were censored in Korea for such a long time and probably are still censored to a certain degree, there is still a lot to destigmatize there. But in America, the topic seems to be more open, and having a therapist is fairly normal. I think. I have one. I think everyone should go to therapy. I mean, in 2023, who doesn't have trauma they need to work through? Have you worked through 2020 trauma? I have not. Other songs BTS did or are doing have helped push BTS forward as one of the bigger artists to talk about mental health. Songs like Life Goes On and even Jin's solo song Abyss, which was released in 2020. And Abyss is literally about Jin's depression. Jin talked about the song previously to say sharing his emotion with ARMY is tough. He always wants to be seen in a positive light. He doesn't want to admit that he is not okay sometimes. And not that sharing that you have depression is a negative thing or a shameful thing, but as an entertainer, you definitely don't want to sometimes share the harsh truth of reality. Entertainers are supposed to be this sense of escapism to their audience. When we tune into them, we lose sight of everything that's happening in our harsh reality. And hearing that idols might have depression snaps people back into reality and makes them feel sad again, or reminds them of their depression. Celebrities now refer to 2020 and they verbally say the word COVID, but at the start of COVID, you might have realized that every artist or celebrity almost refused to acknowledge what was happening. People on YouTube had a reason, because YouTube wouldn't put ads on COVID content, but I still talked about a lot here. But I don't blame them. I feel like they thought it was going to be a quick thing, and also viewers are tuning in more than ever to these celebrities in hopes of a form of escapism. I want to also say the way I'm referring to depression here, it's not clinical depression, because Jin never mentioned if he had that or was officially diagnosed. As someone who was studying to be a therapist in college, I feel it's my obligation to clarify there is a difference. Jin probably has just seasonal depression, which is something everyone has. We all have on and off seasons of life. Jin's depression has been caused by the events of 2020, the pressure he feels, and just his limitations as an artist that year. Clinical depression is more abstract or controversial, and there could be no external cause of it. The release of Jin's song obviously triggers this conversation that we are having here, and this idea that it's normal and not a big deal. These mental conditions can often be defined, depending on the psychologist, as a physical condition similar to something like kidney disease. It's not something that we can control. It doesn't mean we're lazy or insane. If someone has kidney disease, we don't blame them, shake them and scream, "Why are you sick?" People were also talking about Jin since Jung Kook had brought it up. Jung Kook very recently jumped on a live stream to talk to ARMY after months of not posting or updating on social media, and he answered any questions that ARMYs had. Someone brought up Jin and asked what was going on with Jin, and Jung Kook gave a pretty short answer. I think he didn't want to say too much. I think he was scared to talk too much on Jin's behalf. Jung Kook answered that Jin was okay and he's been doing very well. Jung Kook also added that when Jin has time or is allowed his phone, he will occasionally add a message or two into the group chat with all 7 members. I wish Jung Kook talked a little bit more about what those messages are, but maybe they're private stuff. I'm wondering if Jin is saying stuff like, "Oh, this training was hard," or if it's mostly just things like, "I'm just checking in, guys. I'm doing okay." I also feel like it could be a long paragraph of just the highlights of what is going on since his last message. This brought up a lot of relief to ARMY, and it's good to hear directly from the other members. Of course, Jin, being in the military, would likely try to sugarcoat everything, but if the members felt like Jin was being treated unfairly, they could speak up about it without putting Jin at risk, maybe. Although I doubt there is any risk, and if Jin had any issues, he could simply speak up, which I will get into a little bit more in a bit. Jungkook also was believed to have addressed Jin again in a different way. In one of the parts of the stream, Jungkook decided to do a karaoke session with us, which is beautiful as of course he has a karaoke machine at home. I would imagine if you sing for a living, you might not get a karaoke machine because you probably not want to sing in your off time, but Jungkook loves to sing. Anyway, Jungkook did many songs, and he did Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras, and people were freaking out about this because the song is quite dirty, and people were wondering if Jungkook knew what it was he was singing about. And I can say Jungkook knew because at the end of his cover, he was doing the unholy sign thing. And then also did a rendition of BTS's song Youth. And he jumped right into soft Jungkook. The chat went filled with purple hearts, and it's obvious that everyone misses BTS S7 and misses Jin. Jungkook seemed quite happy to see it. When Jin's part for Youth came up, Jungkook did not sing over it. He let Jin's voice come out and let us hear his voice. People were saying that Jungkook got too emotional to sing over it, and people were saying that he looked like he was tearing up or crying. But I feel like he was just honoring Jin and letting his voice be heard, since we haven't heard from Jin in a while. And hearing Jin's voice on a stream with Jungkook, even if it's a recording, hits different from just listening to it on your own in your own room. But who knows if he was emotional or not. Previously, there was a photo that came out of Jin at the camp, and people were getting emotional over the photos as they felt the photos showed Jin in pain. There's a couple of theories we need to talk about, but what happened here? Well, in the military, one of the main training is the tactical march. This is when all the soldiers wear their uniform and all their heavy gear and begin marching. It's not as simple as just walking. You are essentially walking as if you are going to war. You are preparing for battle or getting to experience a small, let's say, simulation of what would going to battle feel like. It's very difficult, as you can imagine. If I got this wrong, let me know. But there was a photo that came out where we see Jin smiling, but armies were not. If you look at the hairline, you allegedly see it missing patches, and people were saying his head also looked red and swollen. But why would it be this way from doing a tactical march? People believe it might have something to do with the helmets. We know that sports gear tends to be something that makes you sweaty, sometimes not as breathable as we'd like, and heavy. So people were saying maybe Jin had broken out in hives or got a swollen head from wearing the helmet. Because in another photo that we see of Jin that same day, we see Jin wearing a hat while it appears the other members were all wearing the helmet. Of course, everyone else was blurred out, so you can't get a really good view, but it does appear that way. People had theorized that the military was trying to hide this and make sure that Jin does not go to the hospital, and this could cause huge media attention. Well, if the military was trying to hide it, then the photo of the alleged swollen head would not have been posted. And also, if Jin needed to go to the hospital, how are you going to say no? It doesn't work like that. So then Jin just suffers quietly. If he did get an allergic reaction from the helmet, then it must not have been serious enough to need medical attention. Maybe he just needed to take some allergy meds and he'd be fine. Not every condition requires medical attention, but also not every condition requires going to the ER. Doesn't the military usually have their own in-house medical team? And if all the theories are correct and Jin did have some allergic reaction to the helmet, and then that is why Jin was seen not wearing the helmet in one photo, then that is just what happened. It's not a big deal. People are going to get injured or have reactions to things. It's not deadly, and to Jin wouldn't be a big deal. The military isn't a big puffy cloud with rainbows and fruit punch rivers. These men are fighting and doing things. It's gonna get uncomfortable and painful, but no one's dying. I also think that if any idol needed to get medical attention at the hospital, the medical staff would likely naturally keep it on the way down low, because it's their career on the line if they don't. And also, I don't think the medical staff at any hospital are going to want to mess with the government's reputation. I think the government would kill them. And if the military is so scared, then ask everyone to sign an NDA. I also don't think in the history of the military, of course, there have been idols that have gotten injured and needed medical attention, but we don't really hear about it. Likely because it doesn't happen, or the government wouldn't allow that story to be published. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out my Patreon for more videos, link down below. Thanks, just love and comment right here. Love you. Bye.